Hey everyone, welcome to day 3 of the Hannah Sew Along. Great job on your zippers yesterday. So today we are going to finish the construction of our Hannahs. I only have black binding on hand, so I'm going to show you how to do the bias tape finish, but I'm not actually going to sew it on. We'll just briefly walk through the steps. And then I'm going to finish mine with the other method with just the hemming under of the bottom of the hood. And then I'm also going to sew my daughter a Hannah so that I can show you the neckband finish. If you decided not to do the zip, I will show you how to finish your Hannah with the neckband. So let's get started. So if you were going to use the bias tape, you're going to want extra wide bias tape. I had a very pretty purple, but it was only single and it just was not going to work for this. So you're going to open up the bias tape and then you're just going to pin one raw edge all along the raw edge of your hood neckline. So you would just take it and go all the way across. Okay, and then you would sew that all the way across on that first line, that first fold. So you'd sew that all the way across at that first fold. Now I am not going to do that because I'm not finishing my Hannah that way, but I will show you what you would do for the next step after you sewed that on. Gonna grab a pin here real quick just because that'll be easier to fold around to show you the next step. Okay, so after you sewed, put my pin right where we would have sewed, you would have sewed along that first line, okay? Then you would take it, so you still have the other side as it's still folded in, and you would take that and wrap it around and fold it like that. So you would have a nice clean finish. I like this finish, it looks really nice, and I kind of wish that purple bias tape I found had been the extra wide, but the black will just not look good with my hoodie, so I just wanted to show you those, okay? And then you would take it over to your sewing machine and you go ahead and top stitch right along the edge. Now the back comes up higher than the front so that when you're top stitching, you're catching that back in the stitching, so it'll be nice, folded, clean looking finish. Okay, so that is how you do the bias tape version. Okay, now for just the hemmed version, if you want, and I usually do, you can go ahead and take and serge just the bottom of your hood neckline so you have a nice clean finish. So I will do that and then I will come and show you how to finish it the rest of the way. So I just a nice clean finish along the bottom, so I just serged that bottom. Now you're just going to take that and fold it toward the wrong side, just 1/4 inch. And go ahead and press that. Okay, so that whole neckline, you're just going to fold up 1/4 inch and press. And then you can pin it in place, or you can use Wonder Tape or clips. So just a real small hem, 1/4 inch hem. So I am just going to use clips to hold it in place because then I am going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm just going to top stitch this in place. So we've finished our hood neckline either with the bias tape or hemming. So now we want to grab our Hannah. we are going to match the hood face opening, right sides together like this. So our zipper teeth should be pointing in toward the arm of the Hannah, and you'll just find that front portion, and we're going to go ahead and clip or pin this in place, and you're going to go all the way around the front opening of our hood. Okay, match up the top seams. This should be a 1-to-1 match, no stretching. Okay, all the way around to our other top zipper portion. Okay, so once you have those pinned right sides together, you're going to go ahead and go over to your sewing machine, starting at the zipper side of one side, up all around the hood opening, and down the other side. Be sure to backstitch at the beginning and end, and you are going to want to use your sewing machine for this, not your serger. Okay, so we have sewn our lining to our hood, right sides together all the way around. Now we're going to go ahead and carefully clip off our excess here. Make sure you don't clip through the stitching. We're just going to clip off the extra zipper tape. It's going to give you a little bit cleaner finish when we flip it. So again, right up to that corner, making sure you don't go through the stitching, but just clip off that excess. Okay, so now we can turn things right side out and tuck our hood lining into our hood, and then there you go, look at that. So we have our hood is attached. Now we are going to top stitch down the zipper, across the bottom, back up, all around the top face opening of our hood and back, so that will be lay nice and flat. So you can go ahead and pull out your zipper. You can pin or clip your down so that when you top stitch it'll be nice and flat and even. So you just go on to, you'll use your sewing machine for this step. Again, you're going down the zipper, across, back up the other side, and around the face opening back to where you started from. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and top stitch around my zipper and hood face opening. Now as I get near the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down and lift my presser foot up so that I can zip the zipper up. Okay, so now I can have a nice even top stitch without that pole getting in the way. So I'll go down to the bottom. Now you want to be very careful where your stop is. Now I have plastic teeth, so I'm going to go ahead and just sew across them. Just want to be careful you don't go over your stop so you don't break a needle. Okay, and then turn the other way and go back up. And again, I'm getting close to that pole, so I am going to put my needle down and my foot up and unzip. I'll go ahead and continue. Now make sure your lining is tucked in there so it's not folded out and getting caught in the zipper. Okay, so we've gone around the zipper. Now we're going to turn and go around the face opening of our hood. Get all the way back to where you started from. Now your zipper and hood are nice and neat and top stitched. Okay, so next we are going to sew down our hood lining. Now we finished this neatly so that it would be a nice neat finish on the inside. So whether you hemmed or used the bias tape, it's going to be the same. So your edge might be bias taped or might be hemmed. It'll look the same. You're going to press the seam down and put the hood lining over it and pin it in place. Do that the whole way across, pressing that seam down, not catching any of the back bodice in the way, and pin. Okay, so once you have the lining pinned to over the seam pressed down, you're going to go ahead and top stitch that in place. Your hood and lining and zipper are all neat and finished, and we are ready to attach the sleeves. Alright, so I also wanted to show you how to do the neckband version if you were not going to do the quarter zip version. So just like the quarter zip, you were to sew them together at the shoulder seams, and then you would take your neckband piece that you cut out, and you're going to want to sew along the short end here. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and sew the short ends together. I like to do it on the sewing machine again so I can open the seam and it'll be less bulky. You could also use your serger if you'd like, but I always use my sewing machine. So I have sewn the short ends together. Now I also like to put a little clip at the halfway part of my neckband because that's going to match up with the front, and this seam will match up with the center back. And you can also do a little clip in your bodice. Same thing, if you match up the shoulder seams, you can go ahead and clip to mark the center front and center back. And we'll use those to line up our band. So you're going to take your band, and like I said, I like to open that seam up and then fold it in half, wrong sides together. Let me grab pins. Okay, so I'm going to take that seam and I'm going to place it inside my bodice, right sides together, matching up the little clip I made in the center back. And then I'm going to go around, find the clip I made in the halfway point of the neckband and match that up to the clip I made in the center front of the bodice. Okay, and then you will just take your bodice, or your neckband, excuse me, and stretch it to fit the bodice. go ahead and pin the right sides of the neckband to the right side of the bodice, matching the raw edges, stretching just the neckband to fit. Okay, once you have it pinned all the way around, you can take that to your sewing machine or serger, and you're just going to go ahead and sew those together at the raw edge. Okay, so now your neckband is attached, and then you can go ahead and just top stitch. I like to push my seam down and top stitch on the bodice, and I'll do that when I am finished attaching bands and cuffs, because I always do my hemming and top stitching at the same time. But you'll just go ahead and top stitch along the neckline. That's how you do the neckband version. Okay, now it's time to attach our sleeves. So I have my sleeves here, and I've gone ahead and clipped a notch where the center is, where it lines up with the shoulder seam, and I've marked my front sleeve. So I have my, I like to do mine wrong side up, and then my front is over here on the left. So I'm going to match up my front sleeve that I marked with the front bodice piece. I put a clip on both sides. So now I'm matching the back sleeve up to the back bodice, and then I go ahead and match my clipped center up with the shoulder seam. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and pin that in place, matching the top of the sleeve with the arm side. Right, so you will go ahead and pin your other sleeve the exact same way. So I just turn my bodice around. Now my front is on the left, and I'll do the same thing. I'll pin my notch, my little clipped notch, to the shoulder seam, matching up the front arm to the front bodice, and the same thing with the back. And then I'll go ahead and pin that in place, and then I'm going to take this over to my serger or your sewing machine, and you'll go ahead and sew the arm onto the bodice. So we have our sleeves attached now. So now we are going to pin up our side seam. So starting at the sleeve, the wrist, go ahead and fold that right sides together, matching the raw edges. Make sure you match the seam where the arm meets the body. I like to press one seam one way and one seam the other way just to reduce the bulk. Okay, and then down the sides of the bodice. Okay, then you're gonna flip and do the exact same thing for the other sleeve and side of the bodice. And then once you get those pinned in place, you can take it to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew down the sleeve, down the bodice on both sides, and then we'll be ready to attach our cuffs and our waistband. So we've just sewn our side seam, so down our sleeve and then down our bodice on both sides. So our hoodie is almost done. Now we are going to prep our wrist cuffs and our waistband. So to do that, I like to do this on my sewing machine because then I can press the seam open and it's a little less bulky, but you can do it on your serger if you would like. So what you're going to do, you're just take over to the sewing machine and sew the short two edges of your waistband together, and then you're also going to sew down the edge of your cuff right side together. So go ahead to your sewing machine, sew both of your cuffs and both sides of your waistband. So we've sewn the short ends of our waistband together and sewn down the side of our cuffs so we can attach them to our bodice now. So with the cuffs, you're going to want to take them and fold them wrong sides together. Now I like to split my seam open. Again, that's just so when I'm sewing, attaching them to the sleeve, it's just a little less bulky. Okay, so you're going to have them folded wrong sides together, and then you're going to take the seam and that will line up with the seam on your arm. I like to slide my cuffs inside when I'm attaching. So go ahead, I'm lining up the seam on the cuff to the seam on my shirt. And I'm going to stretch slightly and pin in place. Zoomy, I'm working.
That's my button.
I will help you when I come upstairs.
Daddy,
You can ask him. Go ask him. Okay, we'll do the same thing for our other sleeve. Now for our waistband, it's the same idea. You're going to attach each of the seams of the waistband will match up with the side seams of the bodice. So just like our cuffs, take it, fold it wrong sides together, and then match up. I like to match both of my seams first. So I'll do the first one, and then turn it around and do the other side. Okay, now you will need to stretch the band to fit because the band is shorter than your bodice. So you're going to stretch that evenly to fit. Now, if you wanted, you could also mark the quarters on the band by matching up the seams and putting a little clip in, and then doing the same thing for the bodice. And then you would match those points, and then you'd stretch in between those points. Just give you a more even stretch. Now when you're doing your front, so I'm about to attach to my front bodice, if you did not baste your pocket in place, make sure that you're catching both the bodice and the pocket and both sides of the band. So you'll have 4 layers when you're pinning there, and you just want to make sure you catch all 4 so that your pocket is not loose. Okay, once you have your cuffs and your waistband pinned in, you can go ahead and take that to your sewing machine or serger and sew them on. Alright, once you have your wrist cuffs and waistband sewn on, you can go ahead and turn your Hannah right side out because you are done. Awesome job! Now, if you have any questions on any of the steps, just comment on one of the videos and I will help you out. And remember, tomorrow is catch-up day, so if you didn't quite finish in the 3 days, no big deal. Ask your questions. We'll help you get caught up for the end of the sew along, and I'm very excited to see all of your Hannahs. Great job, everyone.